Thank you for being here today. Well, first of all, let me address a legal injustice for those who paid in Illinois a law school to learn constitutional law and got our current president to teach them constitutional law. They do deserve their money back. They ought to get their money back. That injustice needs to be addressed. But I wish I didn't remember so much that has gone on before. Wouldn't it be great just wake up, every day's a new day, you could accept things that were said, but the trouble is history has happened and we either learn from it or we repeat it.
That's right.
And we're repeating it.
Yes.
1986. One of our greatest presidents, I think the greatest of the 20th century, got duped. Why? Because he believed the Democratic leaders of the House and Senate who told him, if you'll just sign this amnesty, then we will make sure the border's secured. We'll give you the money, we'll take care of that. Well, he did his part and gave the amnesty, and the Congress did not give him the money to secure the border. Now, since then, well, and you could just go less than 5 years later, the Democratic leaders of the House and Senate said, come on, George H.W. Bush, we know you promised read my lips and no new taxes, but if you'll just raise taxes a little bit, just a little bit, then we can work all this out, get this behind us. And the moment he believed them and got talked into just a little tax raise, they beat him in the presidential election because he lied about his promise. And then you come forward, and Congress has given President George W. Bush the money to secure the border. Some areas it was to be a virtual fence. And Secretary Janet Napolitano just up and announced one day, you know what, I don't think that's going to work. I think that's a waste of money. We don't even know what she did with the $4 billion that had been appropriated for that part. I wasn't a big fan of the virtual fence, but if the president wants to be consistent, then he either needs to build a wall where a wall is capable of being built on our border, or he needs to, Mr. President, tear down your fence. Yeah! Either it works or it doesn't work. If it works at the White House, although I have to admit it doesn't work all that well, but we're finding out it's somewhat of a deterrent. We had Secret Service testify. Well, it's somewhat of a deterrent. Well, if it's somewhat of a deterrent just down the street, it should be on our border. Now, if we refuse to learn from history and allow this unconstitutional amnesty to take place before the border is secured, then there is a very prominent looming question that must be answered. How long do you think we should go before we do the next amnesty? You know, there are so many of us conservatives that have said secure the border and you'll be amazed what we'll be willing to negotiate. But until you secure the border, there's no sense in doing an amnesty, because the question becomes, well, how long before we should do the next one, and the next one, and the next one? And then this country that was such a bright light on the hill to so many is no longer capable of being a thriving economy. It can't. And who's going to apologize to what will likely be, according to our data, the minorities have a much higher unemployment rate, and so it's only natural to assume that the 5 million will disproportionately replace minorities in the workforce. They will work cheaper and they don't have to have health insurance according to the Obamacare law. So who's going to apologize to the minorities that are driven out of their jobs by people that came illegally? Folks, there are some looming questions that have to be answered. In the meantime, the question my friend Steve King brought up Are we going to abide by our constitutional commitment, our oath, or are we not? Now, another question that gets asked of those of us who are Christians: how could you not do as the president quoted from Proverbs in being kind to foreigners? I'm kind to foreigners. You haven't seen it, but at 2 in the morning, I've given little children food because I knew they were hungry. But as a government, whether you're Christian or non-Christian, doesn't matter, as a government, the highest form of Christianity you can practice is to be impartial.
That's right.
That's throughout Proverbs. It's in the next column of verses the president didn't address.
Uphold the law.
You must,
right.
people have prayed for
Right.
200 years, over 200 years, that we would have an impartial government. Don't show favoritism. So who is going to pay back all of those who pay tremendous amounts of money to do it legally in the right way?
Yeah.
So grossly unfair to them. Folks, we have a commitment, we have an oath to keep. Thank you for being out here to remind us that we need to keep it. Thank you.
Yes.
God bless you.
Yes.